Hello everybody, welcome back to another podcast. So last weekend we have the release of Jordan Peele's latest horror movie, Us. Let's see how that movie did at the box office. Alright, let's jump right into the box office. Coming in at number 1 is Jordan Peele's latest horror movie, Us, starring Lupita Nyong'o, I believe. I believe that's how it's pronounced. She is the matriarch of a family. I know who went on a vacation to some coastal Californian town and encounter some doppelgangers that are out to get them, and commence the cat and mouse game between the original and the doppelgangers. The movie is very well reviewed at 94% on Rotten Tomatoes, but a B cinema score, and the movie pulled in or opened to 70 million in its opening frame, which is huge. I said this movie could probably pull in conservatively 30 to 35 million. Because of how well Get Out did, Jordan Peele's last horror movie, right? That one came out of nowhere, surprised everyone, went on to opened to 33 million, 176 million domestically, and 255 million worldwide. And it only cost 4.5 million to make. And this one, 20 million budget, higher budget. And I said conservatively, because of how well Get Out did, people were looking forward to Peele's next movie, and deservedly so, because the first movie performed very well, and it like I say, it blindsided everybody. No one was expecting that movie to did so well, and this one has all the great buzz going for it. 94% review on Rotten Tomatoes. Good buzz going for this movie, right? So it can only do so well. I say conservatively 30 to 35 million, because it just to reach the level of Get Out, but it did way better than my projection. 70 million for Us, which is huge. And according to reviews, it's deserved, right? It's not, like I said, it went out beyond the African American audience. It appealed to like the general audience, everyone, and it's released at a time when spring break is going on, so it appeals to the young ones who like young ones who the teenagers who likes to watch horror movies. And it's beyond the typical slasher movies, right? So 70 million, well deserved, and great things for Jordan Peele. All right, moving on to number 2 is Captain Marvel. It fell about 49% in its third weekend, still holding on well. To pull in 35 million. Domestic gross is 321 million right now, and worldwide it is at 912 million, with 590 million of that from overseas. So soon in the coming weeks, it's going to cross the 1 billion barrier. And with the 321 million domestic take so far, it ranked 10 in the DC Cinematic Universe in the domestic take for the movies, which is pretty good for a new character in the DC Cinematic Universe. And this is an origin story. Captain Marvel will have a bigger role in the next Avengers movie, which is coming out next month, I believe, in Endgames. Good things going for it. Okay, coming in number 3 is Wonder Park. It is the latest animated movie from Paramount. It pulled in 9 million in the second weekend. Drop off is about 43% from this opening weekend. Domestic gross is about 29 million, roughly 30 million after 2 weeks. So it's doing okay. It carved out a niche for itself. When Captain Marvel is in theaters and Us is in theaters, among some of the bigger names. I don't expect this movie to cost that much, right? I think it's only maybe around 70 million or so, around where the Despicable Me movies or the Minion movies are produced. Let's see, and hasn't opened that wide overseas yet, so 10 million from overseas for a worldwide total about 40 million. All right, number 4 is 5 Feet Apart, the latest YA genre adaptation. In the second weekend, it pulled in 8.7 million. About 34% drop off from the previous week. So domestic gross is about 26 million so far. So despite not having high expectation for this movie, it's actually doing pretty well. I said this movie could probably open to about 3 to 5 million because the YA genre has taken a beating at the at theaters. Those movies not doing well. Despite that, it opened to 13 million, and continues to hold on. I mean, it's for some reason this one managed to do well when the other ones failed. I mean, critically, at Rotten Tomatoes, this movie has 52% on Rotten Tomatoes, but a similar score. So the people who saw it liked it. I said this movie could probably drop off huge, but it didn't because I said fans would probably front load the movie. But in its second weekend, it actually held on well. So it's probably released at a time when the teens are on spring break and they found a connection to this movie. So maybe that explains the box office performance. Alright, let's move on to number 5, which is How to Train Your Dragon, The Hidden World. I believe it is the third How to Train Your Dragon movie. It pulled in about 6.5 million in its 5th weekend. Drop off is about 30% from the previous weekend. Domestic gross is 145 million, and worldwide it is at 489 million, with 343 from overseas. So when it's all said and done, it's probably going to rank as the second highest grossing How to Train Your Dragon movie, at least worldwide. Domestically, let's see if it can beat How to Train Your Dragon 2, which is has a domestic gross of 177 million. Okay, number 6 is Tyler Perry's Madea Family Funeral. It pulled in about 4.5 million in this 4th weekend, a drop off of about 43% from the previous weekend, and domestic gross is about 66 million, and it hasn't opened that wide overseas yet, with only 930k from overseas for a worldwide total of about 67 million. Okay, number 7 is the drama Gloria Bell, starring Julianne Moore, John Turturro, Michael Cera, Sean Astin, Janine Triplehorn, Rita Wilson. A lot of good names here. About a woman who is in her 50s looking for love in bars, and found her counterpart in John Turturro. A drama for the older crowd. So it's doing well with that group. Okay, number 8 is the Spanish language film No Manches Frida 2, which is a sequel to No Mancha Frida, I believe it is. And it pulled in about 1.8 million in the second weekend. This is a movie that popped up in the top 10 last weekend because of Captain Marvel, and because of this huge release, it showed up in the top 10. And this is one of these rare Spanish language movies that popped up in the top 10 once in a while. And it shows that there is a audience for Spanish language films. There are subtitles for people who don't understand the language. So it is a comedy, a spring break comedy, about a teacher who is having a rivalry with the boyfriend of her ex or something like that. So yeah, it's one of those type of movies. And its gross is about 6.7 million domestic after 2 weeks. Okay, and moving along is number 9, the Lego Movie 2, the second part. In the 7th weekend, it pulled in about 1.1 million, 48% drop off from the previous week, and 103 million domestic so far, and worldwide it is at 179 million, with 76 million of that from overseas. As we can see, the Lego series movies has not been performing that well, right, with the lowest point being the Lego Ninjago movie, because that's Lego's own brand, and the best performing one was the first Lego movie, which grossed 257 million. And then coming in number 2 is the Lego Batman movie, because of Batman. And then, coming in third is the Lego Movie 2. This box office run is not over yet, but I don't see it overtaking the Lego Batman's 175 million. And for worldwide, yeah, it's gonna remain 3 as well after the Lego Movie and the Batman movie. But as long as Warner Brothers keep the budget low for these Lego movies, is actually gonna perform for them. but don't expect huge numbers like the first Lego movie. Alright, closing out the top 10 is Alita Battle Angel. In the 6th weekend, it pulled in about 1 million in theaters. Drop off of about 47% from the previous weekend, and domestically it's at 83 million. And worldwide is at 400 million, with 316 million of that from overseas. I thought this movie could probably close out this domestic run in the 90 million run, maybe crossing the 100 million barrier, but it doesn't seem likely, so it'll probably close out in the high 80s or so. Alright, so that's it for the top 10. Let's move on to the new releases. We have 3 kind of wide releases, starting with The Beach Bum, which is opening in about 750 theaters, starring Matthew McConaughey as kind of a druggy, boozing, some guy who smokes a lot of pot and writes and gets in trouble with the law. We'll get to that. And then Unplanned, which is a faith-based film about abortion. And then the biggest movie of the new releases, Disney's Dumbo, which is the CGI live-action remake of the classic animated tale. Alright, let's jump right in with The Beach Bum. It is a movie directed by Harmony Korine, the guy who did, what's that name? Oh, Spring Breakers. Yes, Spring Breakers. So he did Spring Breakers and some earlier ones, which escape my mind right now. But same director. Controversial director who takes on movies that's heavy on crime, drugs, and partying. And joining McConaughey in this movie is Snoop Dogg. He's in a co-starring role. Isla Fisher is in here. Zac Efron, Jonah Hill, Martin Lawrence is in here. So a lot of big names in this movie. And the audience for this movie is not that huge, I think. And the people who made this movie kind of knew it. This is more like a passion project for Korine, The Beach Bum. McConaughey plays as a guy, a free spirit who lives lives on his own terms, takes drugs, and associate with people with similar interests. And supposedly he writes as well. But there's a lot of names involved. Just based on that alone, it's probably gonna pull in 1 million at the box office this weekend. Okay, up next is Unplanned. It's a faith-based film from the people behind the God Is Not Dead movies. It has an anti-abortion message, about a woman who has a job with Planned Parenthood. And, this organization is set up as the villain here and the people working for it. And, she was doing her job, and then she gets to see how abortions are done, and she has a change of heart. As with all these message movie, it could do really well, right? It's actually kind of preaching to the converted already, right? It's not going to change any minds, but the people who made this movie hopefully want to change some minds, but still, this is a touchy topic that if you pretty much opinions have already been set on for one side or the other, but people are going to support it. The faithful are going to support this movie, so I think it's probably going to open to 3 to 5 million this weekend. I wouldn't be surprised if it opened a little bit higher, because this is not a movie about God per se, right? This is about abortion, which is a more broader topic, so to speak. It affects more people, so I wouldn't be surprised if it opened higher than my 3 to 5 million projections, but I'm gonna go with conservative 3 to 5 million for Unplanned. Okay, so finally, Dumbo. It's a live-action CGI movie that's directed by Tim Burton, right? Starring Colin Farrell, Michael Keaton, Danny DeVito, among others. It's the latest live-action remake of Disney's classic tales, except this one, the elephants are CGI, especially Dumbo. Say what you will, the the live-action conversion of Disney's classic tale have been pretty successful. Cinderella had a 67 million opening opening, right? Alice in Wonderland had a 116 million opening, Jungle Book 103 million opening, Beauty and the Beast 175 million opening. So there's great interest in Disney's fairy tales, and Dumbo is one of them. Even though it's not a classic fairy tale per se, it is still a movie that's looked upon fondly. So very good opens for these live action conversions, and Dumbo, I would say that it's not going to be an exception, right? Given that, right, there's lots of competition, but I think Disney has its own market, with the family audience. So given the opens for the other live action releases, I wouldn't be surprised if Dumbo opens up to about 80 million or so. Alright, that's it for this week's podcast. Tune in next week to see how I did with my projections. Until then, take care. Bye bye.